Coming up on No Pulp, it was Clarification Saturday in college football. Caleb, we figured out who some of the contenders were, and we figured out a couple of the pretenders.
Yeah, we did, and I take on massive underdog Danny Tao in the juicer. Danny, watch out. I'm feeling a win.
Plus, college hoops got underway last Monday, and a ton of notable things happened. Upset statement games and old faces in new places. We've got an awesome 45-minute show ready to go. It's No Pulp, and it starts right now.
Kansas State has been on fire this year.
Missouri is one of the most fraudulent teams in college basketball.
And it was proved
They're not going to fire him. He's the best player in program history.
Side to Lawrence for the win! Yes! He got it!
She is the Shohei Ohtani of college softball. This is a team that's potentially going to be a top 10 team in the country.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
LSU has captured its very first national championship.
Hey, what's up? It's No Pulp. 45 minutes of it with Caleb Nice. I'm Austin Barach. Caleb, have you ever been slapped on the wrist before?
No,
No,
till now.
Really? Well, Michigan head coach John Harbaugh, rather Jim Harbaugh, got slapped on the wrist this past week with all the investigation stuff into the cheating scandal, stealing signs. Connor Stallions, did it happen? Did it not? How much did Harbaugh know? That's the big question. How much did he know? On Friday, the day before the big Penn State game, they slapped him on the wrist. They said, you can't be coaching on the sidelines for the rest of the regular season. I don't know, Caleb. To me, this feels quite dumb.
What I didn't like was that they waited to tell him until after he landed in State College. Why not tell the guy before he boards the plane? Jim Harbaugh also said he didn't find out directly from the Big Ten. He found out when somebody showed him on social media about his suspension. I mean, you got to do a little bit better than that. But honestly, I think it helped Michigan. I think that they're embracing this underdog mentality, Michigan versus the world. Free Harbaugh. I think anybody who's standing in Michigan's way right now better watch out because they're using this as motivation. They don't see it as a disadvantage.
I completely agree with you. You had a bunch of players, including quarterback J.J. McCarthy, tweet, bet right before the game. I mean, you can't lose a game when you got your whole team saying bet. You got the interim coach crying in the post-game celebration, and that's where this leads because they come out on Saturday, big noon game, biggest game of the weekend, and they thoroughly beat Penn State. I know it's just a 9-point game, but none of what happened that played out at State College surprised me at all. Low scoring game, and Michigan was just a better
football
team.
Yeah, and Michigan played just hard-nosed football all day. They just pounded the rock, which is their bread and butter. J.J. McCarthy was just 7 for 8 for 60 yards.
Didn't matter.
Donovan Edwards, they said, all right, we'll take the slack. We'll just run at PSU's top-ranked rush defense and just give it to them all day. And Penn State had no answer. It was just death by 1,000 cuts for the Nittany Lions.
I'm so glad that Michigan won this game because the whole week, the Wolverines haven't played anybody. They haven't played anybody at all. Doesn't matter. Your quarterback throws for 60 yards like you mentioned, and you dominate the game. Penn State, as always, they fall flat on their face in these big-time games. They always lose to Ohio State, and they always lose to Michigan. Same old, same old.
And Penn State's 15 points were the most points Michigan has allowed all season, but to me, it was still just a dominating effort from the Wolverines. They got Maryland up next on the schedule. Let's move on to the Big 12. Oklahoma State's 42-point loss at UCF opened the floodgates for mass chaos over the final 2 weeks of that regular season in the Big 12 standings. It leads to a conference championship game. You have Texas at the top, Austin, but after that, I mean, it's kind of anyone up for grabs at this point.
It really is, Caleb. It's a whole big mess in the Big 12. Texas, to me, they've been in cruise control after that big win at Bama in week 2. They've been slightly winning these last few games. They seem ready to lose one. They got Iowa State coming up in Ames on the road this weekend. But you look at the rest. I mean, Oklahoma State, after that huge bedlam win against Oklahoma, the final one in the series for at least the time being, they they celebrate all over. The letdown games. 45-3 loss at UCF. Are you kidding me? Oklahoma's been such a mad team. They played their quote-unquote Week 5 Super Bowl against Texas when they beat them in the Red River rivalry. This conference is a mess. I don't like anybody to win this conference.
I definitely don't like Texas to win. You mentioned, I think they're playing with fire right now, just running out of steam, barely getting by teams like Kansas State, just snuck back past TCU. And then their running back, Jonathan Brooks, they just announced he's going to be out with an ACL injury. I don't see how this Texas team is going to win the Big 12 championship. AB, you mentioned it, like right now the Big 12 is just a huge mess for who's going to face them. But I have to say, I think whoever faces the Longhorns is going to win that game.
Really?
I'm pretty sure about it. I just don't see It's just a classic Sarkisian letdown. I think
Yep.
Texas, they flop. They have a chance to go to the playoff, but I just don't see it getting done with how they play lately. Just too inconsistent for me.
I think that, they were so mature in that Bama win, and ever since they've
Looks
been
great.
slowly letting the gas off the pedal.
And meanwhile, Bama's been opposite since
it's
that
opposite.
game.
But
Yeah.
the committee can't rank Bama over Texas, even though if you do the eye test, Bama's been playing better football. It's unbelievable stuff in college football, what you love to see. The Big 12, by the way, will get a lot more teams. Arizona added to the conference next year. Houston is in it this year. So it's going to be
Just
a
need a
really
bigger
good
mess.
basketball conference. It's really what I'm excited about for the Big 12. But moving to the SEC, Georgia, Ole Miss. I mean, 52-17. Total domination for the Bulldogs in Athens between the hedges. This is a game that was never close. A lot of people thought, oh, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, could they pull out the upset? Absolutely not. Just like the Michigan game, I wasn't really surprised by the final score.
I mean, Georgia football showed that it's still just Georgia football. Total domination in this one. They clinched the SEC East. I think they clinched before the game, actually.
They did,
when Tennessee lost to Missouri. But this was the toughest test yet, everyone was saying, for UGA. And look what they did. I mean, it was unbelievable. Who would have thought that they would blow out Ole Miss like this? Everybody was saying, get your popcorn ready for this game. And it was back and forth for a little bit. But then the Bulldogs just ran away with it. Brock Bowers in his return, looking like a freakish alien coming down to earth. He's just unstoppable.
He didn't even do a whole lot, like only 3 receptions for Bowers.
But he's so critical for them
Exactly.
still.
Beck is finding his rhythm. That was the big question mark. Stetson Bennett leaves. Will Beck be good? He's struggled at times this season, but he's got his feet under him right now. He is where his feet are. Over 300 passing yards in this one for him. 1-2 punch with Milton and Edwards at the running back position. Georgia is rounding into form. If anybody believes that this team is not a national title contender, you are just fooling yourself. This is a really good team. Sure, they've lost a lot of pieces, but this Bulldogs team is ready to three-peat.
And I think everybody was really concerned with the quarterback play. You know, Carson Beck, they're like, how is this new quarterback going to do after Stetson Bennett has been there? And he was a little bit nothing too spectacular at first, but in this game against a top 10 opponent, you mentioned he looked unbelievable, making reads, just maneuvering throughout the pocket. He looked like a quarterback that could lead this team to a three-peat.
Yeah, and Jackson Dart, on the other hand, the quarterback for Ole Miss, we've talked about how he's got the moxie, but Beck was just better. And there's nothing to disrespect about Ole Miss for, but they're just a classic good, not great team. They're almost like Penn State without as much consistent success. They just lose these big-time matchups. Their only 2 losses on the season, Georgia, Alabama. Penn State's only losses, Ohio State, Michigan. A lot of parallels, and they're clearly a pretender in this national college football conversation right now.
All right, well, let's move on to the ACC now. Louisville snuck past Virginia and is now 9-1. If they beat Miami this weekend, they'll be taking a trip to the ACC championship game. Austin, do the Cardinals have a shot at taking down Florida State?
You just answered my question with that laugh right there, Caleb.
I didn't mean it.
I mean, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Look, I know the Noles have been a little suspect here and there in some of these matchups, but Louisville, why am I supposed to believe in them? Sure, their defense is good. They shut out Duke 23-0. I don't think Duke is that good. They almost lost to Virginia. Yes, I know it was a Thursday night game, but you got to be better than giving up 21 unanswered points to Virginia of all teams. Yeah, they could easily lose to Miami this weekend. I mean, they just came off a huge win against Virginia Tech, but this would be the first time on the road in a while.
They haven't faced the 3 top ACC teams in Florida State, North Carolina, or Clemson not on the schedule. We got to take that Notre Dame win down there because to me it doesn't really count. I mean,
Sam Hartman couldn't get his revenge.
Notre Dame just came off two night games against Ohio State and Duke. Emotions were high. I kind of canceled that game out. Everybody knows of Sam Hartman's struggles on the road against Louisville. So to me, Louisville just hasn't proven that they can take down a team like Florida State. I think when you look at quarterback play between Jack Plummer and Jordan Travis, you can't get farther from opposites. There's no way Jack Plummer can keep up with Jordan Travis in that Florida State offense.
I mean, a guy by the name of Jack Plummer beating Florida State and all their hopes and aspirations of making it to the college football playoff for the first time since 2013, the inaugural season, would be so college football. Be classic college football. But you know what else is classic college football? An overachieving team being in the top 10, top 12 at this stage in the year. Louisville is a team this year, folks. Don't get cute with it. They're not winning anything of note. I honestly think they're going to lose this week in Miami.
Wow. I mean, I could see them losing to Miami this week, but if they do get past and they do go to the ACC championship game, I think Florida State wins by like 35. There's just no shot Louisville can keep that game close.
Well, Florida State has a really strong chance to make the college football playoff. And when we return, Danny Tao takes on Caleb Nice in the Juicer to talk a lot about the college football playoff. We'll be right back.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a fourth ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Hey there, welcome back into No Pulp. Caleb Nice, Austin Barach, and now Danny Tao joins us here for the Juicer, everybody's favorite college football game show. Fellas, good luck to both of you. We're talking a lot about the college football playoff. A lot of things to discuss here. So many teams with a chance to make the playoff right now. But Caleb, I'll start off with you. Who has the easiest path right now to the playoff?
Well, sitting pretty ranked number 1 is Ohio State, and I think the Buckeyes have the easiest chance to go to the playoff. Danny, you're cringing, I see.
Oh.
But even with the loss to Michigan, I think Ohio State has the strength of schedule to still stay in that playoff consideration. We saw it last year, Michigan and Ohio State both making the playoff. If this would be the number 1 team losing to Michigan ranked 2 or 3, I don't think that's enough to bump them out. I think the playoff committee really loves having Ohio State play in that 4-team playoff. So meaning all Ohio State has to do is take care of 5-5 Minnesota team at home this weekend, something that's totally doable. I just think that Ohio State, it's right there for them. Just don't lose to the Golden Gophers this weekend.
You do realize Ohio State still has to play Michigan, right? That's a game that
they can lose that game. They can go 11-1 and still make the playoffs.
And you're calling that the easiest road?
I get, because you just have to beat Minnesota.
I'll present you with an even easier road. A team that you just said is going to win the ACC championship game by 35 points over Louisville. Florida State.
Tap the wires.
Florida State. Besides that ACC championship against Louisville, they get to play North Alabama and a likely 5-6 Florida team to close out the regular season. If that's not an easy path, I don't know what is. And not only do they have easy opponents, but they're one of 5 schools in the country with a top 15 scoring offense and scoring defense. This is a well-rounded team that's just going to easily take care of business down the stretch.
It's not easy because you got to play Georgia if you win to go to the playoff. And I know you were eavesdropping. You would have heard Georgia just smoked Ole Miss. No way Alabama wants to play Georgia.
We're talking about road to the playoff, not the actual playoff itself.
Yeah.
No, they have to play Georgia in the SEC championship.
This is Florida State, my guy.
Florida State might get to the SEC at some point with conference realignment, Caleb, but you jumped the gun there. Danny easily gets the point. I mean, Ohio State did to play at Michigan, the big house. Michigan's one of the best teams statistically of all time. Easy 1-0 lead for Mr. Tao right now. On the flip side, guys, who has the toughest road to get to the college football playoff? Danny, let me start with you.
The answer is absolutely Washington. Now, I know that they're number 5 in the country right now, but look at these final 3 games. At number 10, Oregon State. versus Washington State in a rivalry game, the Apple Cup, and then Pac-12 championship game. Should they get there, a rematch with number 6 Oregon, and it's always harder to beat a team the second time around. Now, this Washington team, they've only shown us they can win one type of game, a shootout. Only won once this year by less than 30 points. And Michael Penix, the last 6 times he's played a ranked team as quarterback of these Huskies, he's thrown a pick in 5 of them. Not a player who's going to keep up with that kind of production.
All right, well, I did jump the gun. I'm going to go back to Alabama. When it's rivalry week, I think you throw out the rankings. They have Auburn on the road in rivalry week, and crazy things happen in rivalry week. You saw the kick 6 a few years ago with Alabama. So let's say I think they do get past Auburn. They get past the Tigers. After that, you play the team nobody wants to play in Georgia. They just looked about as dominant as possible in Ole Miss on a 27-game winning streak. I think nobody wants to go against Kirby Smart. Good luck to Alabama from here on out, because if they do keep winning, they beat Chattanooga this weekend, they just have the toughest path to get to the playoff.
You just said it right there. They have to play Chattanooga this weekend, and you're calling this a hard road?
I'm more focused on the Auburn, Georgia that comes after Chattanooga.
Well, a lot of rivalry games to discuss. Danny making some strong points, Caleb making some strong points. I mean, Washington has a really tough road here. I mean, to rematch with Oregon, they probably won't get the benefit of the doubt if they have that one loss. But ultimately, playing Georgia in the SEC title game, that is tough. With all the momentum that Kirby Smart's team has, they haven't lost in like nearly 2-3 years, the Bulldogs. So I'm going to go with Caleb. Bama, they won't get in with 2 losses. They already have one. Small room for error. So now it's 1-1, all tied up. I truly don't know who's going to win here. So we go back to Caleb for the third and final question, folks. And the question is, which team has to absolutely win its final 2 games?
I mean, I think it would be really easy here to pick a team with 1 loss. Of course, they'd have to win their last 2 games if they want a shot at the playoff. But I'm going to go with an undefeated team in Michigan that has to win its last 2 games if they want a shot at the playoff. I talk about how Ohio State has an easy path. I think they could lose to Michigan and still make it. That's not the case for Michigan because they don't have that same strength of schedule. So they're going to have to beat Maryland and Ohio State if they want a shot at the playoff. To be honest, I think that's just what's going to have to happen because they have that win against Penn State. If you look at Ohio State, they have a win against Notre Dame. They also have a win against Penn State. Michigan has to win the next 2 games. Otherwise, they're left out of the playoff. I think that's going to be a failure for them because the playoff was considered the goal, the minimum for the season.
I mean, saying that Ohio State can lose to Michigan but still make it, Michigan can't lose to Ohio State and still make it. I mean, that's just
it's the strength of schedule.
It's
what they value with the committee.
Look, you're focused on the playoff for this question. I'm not necessarily looking at the playoff. That's not all college football's about. Give me Tulane as the team that needs to win its final 2 games. Hear me out. I know it's an unconventional pick, but look, the Green Wave 9-1 on the season. Look at a program like UCF over the last couple seasons. They put a stretch of 5 really good football seasons or so together, and they get moved up to a power conference with all the realignment going on right now. If Tulane can win these final 2 games, go 11-1, secure a spot in a New Year's 6 bowl as the group of 5 representative, I mean, is that not a major step up for this program where they could realistically make a move into a power conference if they keep these results up?
It's the playoff was what really matters. I mean, that's why you have players sitting out of these random bowl games because the season is all about the playoff. That's why Michigan has to win these next 2 games. Tulane, I mean, it's great if you go 11-1, but if you go 9-3 or 10-2, it's still going to be a bowl game regardless. You're not going to the playoff.
Guys, I'm not going to lie. I hate both of your answers. I mean, it is all about the playoff. And Michigan, Ohio State has more pressure to win its final 2 games. I mean, they're going to probably lose to Michigan, and then they need other people to lose. So I have right here, decide who wins. Decide who wins. I don't know who's going to win right now. Both bad arguments. So I'm going to go totally off script. I am going rock, paper, scissors. No. Best of 1 right here, folks. Best of 1. You got 1 chance, no best of 3. Best of 1 right here. Because your arguments were so bad. Here we go. There we go. On 3. 3, 2, 1.
Rock. Oh, what?
Let's go. You guys go.
Now.
Yep.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Wow. Danny takes a tremendous television, folks. Maybe the best, maybe the worst you've ever seen.
So tough.
It's up to you to decide. But Danny Tell wins the juicer, an unconventional juicer right here, right now. Well, on the other side of a quick break, we're talking college basketball Mad Libs. Get excited for that. We move on after a word from this message.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
They said a bottle was just a bottle. That no one would ever notice me. But I knew I could be more. That one day, I would make people smile.
Welcome back into the Citrus TV studio. No Pulp rolls on. Caleb Nice and Austin Barach with you. It's time for a game now. I'm not sure if I want to play another game after that truth or loss, to be honest. We're going to play a game where you give the word to complete the fill in the blank. It's Mad Libs, but it's College Hoops edition. So, Austin, our first sentence, Michigan State's loss to James Madison, that upset loss, was blank.
Classic Izzo. I'm going with that. Sure, you might say insanity, should never happen, embarrassing, but I'm going with classic Izzo. Look, if there's two things I know about Izzo and his basketball program, it's that one, he gets his guys ready for March playing good basketball, and two, they lose these early season matchups. I mean, it's just manufactured adversity for the Spartans. Sure, you don't want to manufacture some adversity in game one of the season, especially because all of football season, and if you haven't been paying attention to college football, Michigan State has had a tumultuous football season. And all they're saying in East Lansing this fall is, oh, watch out for basketball. We're going to be nasty in basketball. And you lose this one. I know they lost the preseason game against Tennessee at home. Really tough look for Sparty, but I know Tom Izzo well enough to know he will get his guys to turn around.
Yeah, I mean, no knock on JMU. The Dukes are a really great team off to a 3-0 start. They're looking really strong.
Ranked.
But Michigan State just looked terrible in this one. And that's why I go with the word foreboding. A warning.
Whoa.
Michigan State 1 for 20 beyond the arc in this one. Just a terrible shooting. Foreboding. Just a terrible shooting percentage in this one. And I go with foreboding because I think that in hindsight, this is a warning to Tom Izzo. The whole pitch with the Spartans team, who many thought would cut down the nets in April, a favorite to win the national championship, was that they're returning 4 starters from last year. On top of that, they bring in a top 5 freshman class.
Yeah.
But you got to let those young guys play through the growing pains. And Tom Izzo isn't doing that. He's letting those 4 starters go. You can't rely on the veterans alone to win basketball games, especially when you get deeper in the season in the tournament. It's a warning that if you don't let these young guys get the playing time, learn now in November, there's going to be a lot more problems down the road.
I tell you what, they could have really used a guy like Joey Hauser, who graduated from the program after 17 years in East Lansing. But moving from East Lansing to Cameron Indoor Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, Caleb, big-time matchup this past Friday. Arizona at then number 2 Duke. But this win for Arizona, them nabbing a big-time win at Cameron Indoor, was what?
Was inspiring. It's been over 30 years since Arizona has taken a trip to Cameron Indoor Stadium. Head coach for the Wildcats, Tommy Lloyd, was going back and forth in the weeks leading up to the game. He wasn't sure if he should talk about how great of an opportunity it is to play against a top team on the road against Duke, or if he should be worried about their non-con schedule. They had Duke, Michigan State, Purdue. Tommy, you got to trust your gut. Your team went in and did what very few non-conference teams do at Duke, and that's win. Arizona went into Cameron Indoor, outscored the Blue Devils 11-4 in the final minute. And then what also was so inspiring was Caleb Love, the UNC transfer. Look, Duke fans are never going to be nice to anybody, especially not UNC fans, especially if you've played for UNC in the past. You think they're going to be any easier on Caleb Love, and he had some clutch free throws down the stretch, just all around inspiring.
Really poetic stuff from Caleb Love to return. The place where he pretty much retired Coach K. John Shire takes over. That was actually his first career loss as the head coach at home at Cameron Indoor. Perfect record last season at home. I'm going with program statement as my Mad Lib. This story is really about 2 words here. I can do that. I make the rules. I think this was really professionally done by Tommy Lloyd and his squad. It's his 3rd season. He was a longtime assistant under Mark Few in Spokane with Gonzaga. He's such a professional. He brings the best out of his guys. He runs a really tight ship. And you're right, Caleb Love coming back. They lost to Bellis last season, but Love comes in. Everybody else just gets better. I mean, that's not talked about enough, is just the internal improvement out of everybody within the program. That just speaks to Tommy Lloyd.
Yeah. So we've covered the men's side now. Let's go over to the women's side. Caitlin Clark with just another ridiculous performance. She is back with Iowa, hoping to make another run at the championship. And the Hawkeyes win over the Hokies. Clark had 44 points with 8 boards. Austin, her performance was what?
Keeping it simple here, folks. Electric. An electric performance out of Caitlin Clark. She filled up the stat sheet, and she scored at all levels. The step-back three-pointers, the driving to the hoop, you know, really going at the defenders. Georgia Amore was somebody who she really went at, and she's really good in her own right. This is a good Virginia Tech squad led by Kenny Brooks. Really solid program he's got there in Blacksburg. But Caitlin Clark in Iowa, when she plays, you know, magic is going to happen. I mean, the driving layups, like I mentioned, the step-back threes, the pull-up threes, shooting from 35 feet out from the left wing, icing the game, too. This was a back-and-forth contest. She really lit it up late in the game to make it a win for Iowa. I mean, look at that right there. The crossover, the step-back, ice, absolute nails. She's a big-time player. Big-time players make big-time plays. She's clutch. She's a big-time performer.
That's why I'm going with the word anticipated, because she's been a big-time performer for a while. Virginia Tech's coach said sometimes you're playing checkers and she's just playing chess, and she was a rook star. Uh-oh. Chess pun. She was a rook star in this one. Caitlin Clark, I feel like every time she takes the floor, my timeline is filled with her highlights after the game. I mean, she's been taking the college basketball world by storm. She's always got these athletes tweeting after the game about how great she's done. And it's no knock on her that I say anticipated. I just mean we're so used to how spectacular she's been. She's a generational talent.
She's keeping it fresh.
She just continues to do it game after game. It's a shame that I'm getting used to it, but honestly, it's so special to watch, and I want to keep watching.
Side note here, what's your favorite pawn or position in chess?
King.
The king?
Yep.
Why not the knight? You can go up 2 over 1, up 1 over 2. It's really cool stuff.
I'm a king.
I guess you are. Not quite Sam Harton level king, though.
Yeah.
Well, we're up against another break here on No Pulp, but after a quick word from this message, we got more college hoops after this.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be?
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Jason, let's go see your room.
No, that's not right. How was it? Is it good?
Welcome back into No Pulp with Austin Barach. I'm Caleb Nice. Austin, there's a song called Mad World that goes all around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces. Maybe after this there will be a song called Unruffled World. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck in the Mad Lib game. Unruffled is a great word. But we're talking new faces in new places. Austin, first, we got to talk transfers. Who's a fresh face you're keeping your eye on?
Hunter Dickinson. This is potentially the biggest transfer in the history of collegiate athletes, at least for the college basketball world. Big time transfer. He really prolonged his decision. He was getting recruited by so many different schools and finally goes with Kansas. He's a guy who can make this Jayhawks team back to a national title contender. But my concern with Hunter Dickinson is that he dominated so much at Michigan, but they play a Big Ten pace. It's slower, it's less athletic. The games are in the 50s, the 60s. In the Big 12, games are played in the 70s and 80s. So I'm not sure how he'll be able to transfer to what Bill Self wants to run. Bill Self's staple is point guard and center play. It'll be interesting to see if Dickinson can figure it out with a new look conference.
On a side note, I don't know if you saw, but when Hunter Dickinson did pick Kansas, it was a hilarious video where he walks in and there's kind of just really anticlimactic energy when he lets Bill Self know he's coming to Kansas. It was just an awkward encounter. But I'm also mad at Hunter Dickinson for leaving those Wolverines, so maybe I'm just biased. For my freshman, I'm going Max Asmus out of Oral Roberts, where he spent 4 seasons with the Golden Eagles. He's best known for taking Oral Roberts to the Sweet 16 back in 2021. And look, he's a prolific scorer, averaging over 21 points per game in each of the last couple of seasons. He just knows how to get it done. He was the Summit League Player of the Year last season. Now he joins the Longhorn squad that's coming off a Big 12 championship and an Elite 8 appearance. I think he adds a whole new scoring dimension. As I mentioned, he just knows how to put the ball in the cup. Texas loses Marcus Carr. I think he does a really good job in filling that role. He had 19 in his most recent game with the Longhorns. I think that's huge because everyone was talking about how the biggest question mark with him was going to be how his size translated to the Big 12. He's about 6 foot 175, but he scored 19, not against a Big 12 opponent. But a guy like that, I think he can get it done anywhere he goes.
He's a blast from the past. I mean, 2-3 years ago, he was the story with Oral Roberts, that Sweet 16 appearance, upsetting Ohio State. And you're right, Texas lost a lot of key pieces. I still think they're good. We were on that Texas train last year. It didn't quite work out. You never know what could have happened if Dylan Dessou didn't get hurt in the Sweet 16 and could have played against Miami. But moving from the transfers to the freshmen, Caleb, who's one freshman who you think is just really, really good?
Rob Dillingham coming out of Donda to Kentucky. If you haven't seen Rob Dillingham's highlights, you're missing out. He's unbelievable. One of the most shiftiest players I've ever seen, whether it's the passes or the dribbling or the step-back shots. He's like if you took your 2K game and translated it to the real college basketball world. He's just that kind of talent. And he's a freshman, which is unbelievable that he's still a teenager and is able to do stuff like this. He scored 40 points in Kentucky's blue and white game earlier this month. The dude is a walking heat check. I mentioned with Asmus his size, similar thing with Dillingham. As recruited, he was 160. That was a huge concern, but he put on 16 pounds, and I'm really excited to see how he pairs with fellow freshman DJ Wagner in that Kentucky backcourt. 2 electric guys to watch. It should be really interesting to see how they play for the Wildcats this year.
They have tons of young talent, and as we mentioned earlier, it'll be interesting to see how they fare against Kansas in that tournament on Tuesday. But for my freshman, we're going to the West Coast, City of Angels. Isaiah Collier. He is a tremendously good freshman, highly touted. He's the #1 recruit in all the land.
And is he overshadowed by Bronny at USC?
Oh, absolutely, he is. I mean, Bronny's not playing. We wish him well getting back onto the basketball court. But Collier is a guy who's got elite speed, elite strength, great pull-up game, attacks the rim really tough. I mean, he almost reminds me of if Scoot Henderson didn't go to the G League and played in college hoops for 1 year. So it's going to be a pleasure to see this guy play basketball. He's going to have a March Madness moment. You can count it. I mean, USC is going to be like a 5 or 6 seed, but Collier is going to put them on the map. He's got a determination about him that I really, really love.
I think it'll be interesting, too, to see if those Trojans can make a deep run in March Madness. In years past, I feel like everybody's kind of expecting them to get a little bit further than they did. They definitely have the potential this year. It's just got to be tough for him living in the shadow of Bronny. But, I mean, hey, USC is known for that top talent in football. They got Caleb Williams right now. So Isaiah Collier, he could be next. So we've talked players. We got to talk about the guys who are in charge of the players. I'm talking about coaches that are with the new team this year. Austin, who's your first head man? We got to keep an eye on this year.
I love this pick so much. My guy, Rick Pitino, back in the fold. We remember him from all the days Kentucky and Louisville. He went over to Greece because the NCAA didn't like what he did sometimes. But look, he never cheated the game, Caleb. He never cheated the game. Rick Pitino it's so good to see him back on the sidelines. I was watching the game last week against Stony Brook, walking up and down the sidelines, inspiring his players. You just saw that interview with John Fancy coming out with the Chronicles of Rick Pitino. He's saying he's at 71 years old right now. He's a changed man, though, Caleb. He's a changed man. He's cracking jokes with his players. He's having more fun with his guys. This is a St. John's team that's been off the national map for a long, long time. This is a head coach that took 3 different programs to Final Fours. He takes good and makes it great. He is such an innovator of this game. I'm gonna have so much fun watching what he does from the sidelines and making this Johnny's squad relevant again.
I mean, St. John's is lucky anytime you get a chance who has a coach with a national championship under his belt. He had it with 2013 in Louisville when they took down Michigan.
And it got vacated. The NCAA, come on.
But I mean, having that experience, bringing it to a St. John's team, you just hope that's kind of going to revitalize the program.
Yes.
And I'm sure the players appreciate learning from a guy who's been able to play in big situations like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, my pick, we're going to go to Providence with Kim English. Ed Cooley spent 12 years with the Friars before he left for Georgetown in a move that maybe was lateral. Not so sure how it was a positive move with the brand that he built there with Providence. But anyway, you bring in Kim English, a 34-year-old who had coached at George Mason. He took over a stinky Patriots team there. They went 14-16 his first year, but 20-13 last year. He gained a lot of respect in the A-10 for that program that he built. But to me, Austin, it's just wild that he's going to be a head coach for Providence after just 2 years of experience under his belt, because Providence, they're a big name in college basketball. They make the tournament. So the fact that you're bringing in Kim English, a guy who's proven he can win in the A-10, but a Big East is such a jump, and Providence is so used to winning. The expectation there is you win and you win fast. There's no slow starts. They want wins. Friars games are electric at the Dunk.
The old Dunk, yes. They rebranded it to something else. Unbelievable.
But Kim English, I mean, do you think 2 seasons under his belt at George Mason is enough to take over a Providence team?
I don't know. It's really dicey. Providence is interesting because, again, they don't have football. The Big East really does not. So everybody in Friartown pays attention to basketball. I think I like the hire. A lot of people within that organization believe in him. They believe in his moxie, his leadership, his ability to relate to the youngsters on the team. Cooley leaving, he just wanted the DC recruiting base, the Georgetown big name brand. So I understand it from that perspective. But when the Hoyas go to Friartown, that'll be a sight to behold. Kim English, I like what he's building there.
And he's off to a 2-0 start, so clearly he's finding success so far. Well, we're up against one last break here on No Pulp. Don't go anywhere. Citrus TV back after this.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have pre-diabetes. Big time.
Here's your check.
Oh, you got it.
You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Hey there, welcome back to No Pulp. Austin Barach wrapping up shop here on No Pulp, and we're going to the play of the week for me, and we're going to South Carolina, where freshman sensation guard Malaysia Fawiley pulled up an absolutely spectacular layup and transition. This was the first game of the season against Notre Dame. Here she goes behind the back, no dribble, up and under, right-hand layup with the English on the left side of the hoop. Unbelievable stuff. This kind of creativity, you just don't see that often. This is tremendously athletic. The poise, the bounce, everything about it. This is a really good South Carolina team. She's only like the 8th or 9th person overall on the team, the 3rd or 4th off the bench. She's really, really good.
Yeah, I don't know how you stay in the air long enough to pull off something like that. My play of the week, we're going back to football. Down in Athens, Ole Miss taking on Georgia in the 4th quarter. A front runner for catch of the year, Dayton Wade. And Wade, until you see this, an unbelievable one-handed grab, an Odell-like grab. Just watch the extension on this play. He goes parallel to the ground, maybe gets 3-4 feet of air in this one, and he has the concentration to pull this in. Might I say, Austin, the best D Wade in the history of sports, Dayton Wade. I mean, just an unbelievable catch. My favorite part is just the heart he exhibits. The team is down 31 points, and he's still giving efforts like this. Unbelievable.
My only concern with that, Caleb, is that score was blowout loss. It's like Chris Paul hitting a jumper to cut the lead to 42 points. It's unbelievable. But for my final word, I want to take the time here to appreciate this moment in college football. There are 8 really, really good teams, those 8 teams. Ohio State, Georgia, as we just mentioned, Michigan, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, and Alabama. They have a combined record of 86-4. According to FanDuel, the official bookkeeper of CitrusTV's Beat the Bookie, all 8 of those teams have a plus 250 or better odds of making the playoff. 7 of them are at least a plus 160. We haven't had so many deserving playoff teams this late into a season. We just have not. Ohio State and Michigan have their annual rivalry game in less than 2 weeks. Oregon and Washington are likely to meet in the Pac-12 championship. Alabama and Georgia are going to meet in the SEC championship. That's already official. Florida State is probably going to make the playoff for the first time since the inaugural 4-team playoff year with Jameis Winston. This is an awesome time to be a college football fan. I can't wait to see how everything unfolds.
So appreciate college football will make you appreciate moments like this, because it was thought that Texas A&M went to some crazy lengths to fool Mississippi State before their game on Saturday. Aggies quarterback Max Johnson had been considered questionable day-to-day this week after sustaining an injury to his ribs last week against Ole Miss. But when A&M took the field, a left-handed passer in a number 14 warm-up shirt began playing catch. That was Max Johnson's number. However, that person was not Max Johnson. Instead, it was an apparent decoy sent out to warm up, seemingly in an attempt to make the Bulldogs believe that Johnson would be healthy enough to start the game. Later, the A&M athletic director denied it, saying walk-on Blake Boast borrowed Johnson's shirt because he couldn't find his. Apparently, their lockers are right next to each other. We may never know the truth. But Austin, I did hear Michigan is reaching out to A&M to learn some tips on disguises.
That's funny. I mean, Texas A&M just bought out Jimbo Fisher for $76 million. So
get paid not to do your job.
Not to do your job.
How do we do that?
Not at all. Not at all. Revisiting college basketball real quick here, Caleb. If you could go back to 2 things, the LSU loss on the opening night and UConn loss. If you want to revisit those Mad Libs, what would be something that you would describe those 2 upset losses in week 1 in women's college basketball?
Flummoxed. I am totally surprised by those losses. I mean, that Colorado game over LSU was crazy to take down the defending national champion, and it was the way they did it, which is why I'm flummoxed. They were up 22 at one point. They just seem to be in control of that entire game. I'm not really sure how that happens, but I think Kim Mulkey, she's got that passion, that determination. I think she knows how to turn that Tigers team around. What are you going with?
Alonzo Mourning gift. I mean, this is a... I mean,
Can you reenact it for us?
Oh, like at first I was like, oh boy, you need to have these good teams at the top.
There it is.
You need to have these good teams at the top, but then you're like, oh, wait a second. Now we have more parity in the sport. Parity is good for everybody. It's a wide open field, more excitement in all of the college basketball world. Hoops, football, everything in between. Caleb and I covered it here. This was a whole lot of fun. You catch everything at all this weekend in college football.